So I love you, by the way. I just love your whole concept on all of it. I've been in nutrition for years, and everything that I was taught was completely upside down, like you were saying. And I used to tell people for years until I, heard about you, I would tell people half my job is telling all of my clients that everything they ever knew about food is completely wrong. And Scott too, he and I both have been doing the carnivore diet for quite some time. And yet my family's had some autoimmune issues, some mental health issues, histamine issues. And so we were using the carnivore diet to try and turn our own health around. And it was very successful, but we felt like there was something missing because every time we would eat something like a vegetable, a Brussels sprout, a piece of fruit, anything else that was not meat, we'd notice that digestively we couldn't tolerate it or handle it anymore. And I felt like some of my clients were having the same experience where if they went meat only for a while without, and realize this is without any probiotics or anything, but just doing meat, we noticed that some people would struggle reintroducing foods at a later date. Some people would go 1.5 years, 2 years, and they still couldn't tolerate reintroducing anything. So when I read your books and watched all of your interviews and videos, I loved that you introduced the microbiome component. So the focus is on using natural homemade probiotics to repopulate and rediversify the gut, correct? I felt like that was the missing piece in the carnivore diet. And that's what we're trying to focus on now. But Scott and I had a few questions about that and about the GAPS diet in particular. Do you mind if we ask you some of those?
Okay. We've run over time, haven't we?
Yeah. So just a couple questions. Number one is, we've noticed like Scott's had some issues with this. My mother and sister have had some issues with this. Do you know what the issue could be if somebody is doing meat stock and they are doing the proper meat stock cooked for the proper length of time, that are having issues digesting that? Would there be any particular reason that somebody would have an issue digesting broth?
It depends on the whole mixture of what you're eating, and of course it's the gut flora. It's the certain, you have wrong microbes in your gut, and they are doing something wrong with this meat stock. That is why you're not digesting it. That's as simple as that. And you have those wrong microbes because you're eating something else that is not rebalancing the whole microbial community in your digestive system. People have very damaged digestive systems.
Sure.
The more damaged the digestive system is, the less plant matter we can tolerate, because plants are difficult to digest for human beings. I have extreme groups of patients who cannot tolerate any plant matter at all.
Mm-hmm.
And for these people, I designed the no plant GAPS diet, which is described in the blue book, in the gut and physiology book. This is the latest one. Yeah, this is a thick book.
Yeah, it's a great one.
That's the Bible.
It is.
Thank you. Yeah. So these people have to start from that extreme end of the GAPS diet to nourish themselves, to make themselves stronger. And then gradually we start introducing plant matter. The easiest plant matter to digest is fermented one.
Sure.
Because microbes have unsurpassed ability to digest plant matter. In fact, it is a scientific fact that the only creatures on our beautiful planet that can digest plants are microbes. The only creatures. Cows, goats, giraffe, zebra, antelope, and other herbivorous animals who live on grasses do not digest that grass themselves. They have 3 or 4 stomachs, huge, full of microbes. So when they swallow that grass, it's that microbial community in their stomachs that digests the grass for them, does all the work for them. Human beings do not have this kind of microbial community in the stomach. We have one little stomach which produces hydrochloric acid. The acidity has to be below 2, below 1 sometimes when we're hungry. And that acidity is very hostile to any kind of microbe to survive. That's why we have very few microbes hanging on in the stomach of the human being. That is why, and remember, in order to digest plant matter, you need microbes. That is why plants really are indigestible for human beings. Hydrochloric acid is perfect to digest animal foods, but completely unsuitable for digesting plant matter. So by fermenting plants outside our bodies before we put them into our mouth, we're allowing microbes to pre-digest them for us. Do all the digestive process outside our bodies, in the jar, in the crock pot, before we actually put it in our mouth. So when the microbes digest the plant matter, they release nutrients into the mixture, into the juices. They enrich the whole mass with microbial community. So you're eating probiotics. And it's full of enzymes which assist your digestive process. It will assist your pancreas, assist your liver, assist your stomach in digesting whatever you're eating. So the first plant matter that we introduce for these people are fermented foods only, fermented vegetables. Any kind of vegetable can be fermented. Whatever surplus you have in your garden, ferment. Don't throw anything away. For example, radishes, lovely vegetable, but there's only so many radishes one can eat in one day, right? They're not favorite for many people. And radishes usually ripen all at the same time. You have a whole bed of radishes. They're all beautiful and gorgeous. But if you leave them for a week, they go woody, not so good anymore. You can't eat them anymore. So harvest a lot, wash them, put them in a brine, ferment. Fermented radishes are delicious, fantastic, and you can blend them and add them to any dish. And they will allow you and help you to digest that meat stock. If you have that cup of broth, that cup of meat stock, and you put a couple of blended radishes, fermented radishes, or sauerkraut, or fermented carrot, or fermented beetroot, or fermented greens, fermented any vegetable into it, then you'll digest it much better.
Okay. What about die-off? I would love to talk about that just for a minute, because a lot of us have been struggling as we're adding in some of these probiotics. We're noticing a lot of these die-off symptoms as the pathogenic bacteria exits the body. What can people typically expect from that situation? Like most of what we've read online is, die-off might last 2 or 3 days. We're finding that it can last a lot longer than that if your body's kind of in a rough state. So can you tell us a little bit about what to expect?
Die-off is a good news. It means you're hitting the right bugs on the head. When they die, they release toxins. And these are the very toxins which make a child autistic or hyperactive, give you rheumatoid arthritis, give you headaches, give you migraines, give you allergies, or whatever else you specifically have. So killing those things is important. You have to go through die-off. But it's important to control it so that it doesn't debilitate you. How do we control die-off? We control it by introducing probiotics and fermented foods gradually, starting from a small amount. Try 1 teaspoon first and see what happens for 3-4 days. How your body reacts, what kind of reaction you get, and then increase to 2 teaspoons and so on. Go gradually. Don't hit yourself suddenly with a huge die-off, because die-off is good. And die-off also is cyclical. Your body will decide itself which layer of the onion to peel first, and which to peel second, and which to peel third, because your health is like an onion. So your body will decide, right, the first thing that I need to deal with is suppressed immune system. So it will probably peel that layer of the onion first, and you'll go through die-off with that, and your immune system will get off the floor, and you may get a temperature. You may get a cold, like all the symptoms of a cold. Okay. Low energy, high fever, just feeling awful, runny nose, diarrhea, possibly sneezing, coughing, headache, the whole lot. Celebrate, stay in bed, sweat, go through the temperature, do not reduce the temperature. Your body, because the temperature, high temperature, is one of the best tools your immune system uses for killing cancer cells, removing cancers out of your body. If you've got any tiny little cancers already developing in your body, they'll be gone after a few days of high fever. To rebalance your immune system, to kill all the parasites and escort them out, to burn out toxicity and remove it out. It is a major, powerful cleansing process going on in your body. Rebalancing, refurbishing, spring cleaning. Don't go to work. Don't take aspirin. Don't take ibuprofen. Don't take paracetamol. Don't take any painkillers or anything. Do not reduce the temperature. Stay in bed, sweat, drink meat stock, drink hot water with lemon and honey, and just do nothing else. Just give your body the respect, the honor, and allow it to do this work properly. If you it will come on a very much higher level of health immediately. And on that higher level of health, you will have a a restful period when you will feel great, wonderful. And then your body will gather strength and say, right, I'm ready now to peel the second layer of the onion.
Okay, that makes a lot
And
of
you
sense.
get all your die off again, and you may get you may get other symptoms again. Just respect your body, go with it, because you maybe at this point the body says, right, I've got all this mercury accumulated. I've got all this lead accumulated, all this aluminum, these bromides from the packaging from food and from fire retardants, chlorine from the water, fluoride from toothpaste. All of these things are poisonous and they're destroying my thyroid function and they're destroying my adrenals and destroying something else. I need to remove that lot. But in order to remove that lot, the body has to have resources and strength and ability. And it may take a year to gather strength. And then when it's ready, it'll start removing that lot. You will feel awful. You get diarrhea because the major venue for the body to remove toxic metals is through the bowel. They're delivered to the bowel, transported across the wall of the bowel, and the bowel immediately senses this is terrible poison, which they are. So it pulls in salts, pulls in water, and causes a bout of diarrhea. Clean this stuff out. Better out than in.
So if
Definitely.
somebody's experiencing pretty severe die-off symptoms, should they continue with doing the fermented vegetables, or should they ever take a break from doing the probiotics?
Cut down to a smaller dose and rest. Respect your body, allow it to go through the symptoms. I know it's uncomfortable, I know it's unpleasant, but in order to come to a new level of health, in order to get out of that dead end where your body is, you have to go through suffering. You have to get to that. What helps with die-off tremendously are enemas.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a large chapter on enemas in this book, and in the yellow book, a vast majority of toxicity that is floating in your blood, more than 90%, is coming from your bowel. If you keep the bowel empty, if you flush it out nicely, just read that chapter, keep your backyard healthy and clean, then you're removing 90% of toxicity. You will immediately feel better.
And does that include histamine as well? Does that include, like, because fermented foods that, could have a great deal of histamine. So do you just sort of push through that, or should you?
You push through that. You push through that. Histamines, every microbe, vast majority of microbes on the planet produce histamine. Even probiotic microbes, which you buy in probiotic capsules, produce histamine. Lactobacilli produce histamine, bifidobacteria produce histamine. Most of them produce histamine. They're all histamine producing things. And histamine is also produced by your own body. Histamine is essential for us to produce stomach acid, stomach juice, and for many other functions, for joy, for exhilaration, for good mood, we need histamine. We need histamine for many, many functions. So histamine is not an enemy. It isn't something really bad. It's just you have pathogenic microbes which are producing too much.
Okay.
That's why your body is overloaded with it and you react to it. Flush it out with a good enema.
We have both Scott and I have experienced withdrawal ourselves and have worked with a lot of clients who have gone through withdrawal, who we found have some pretty extreme histamine issues and pretty extreme gut issues. Do you have much experience working with people who are stopping SSRIs or benzodiazepines or other psychiatric medications that may be struggling even doing the GAPS diet in the beginning?
All psychotropic medications are addictive. And unfortunately, pharmaceutical manufacturers very often do not tell you about that.
Right.
And even psychiatrists are not sure about that. Every one of them is addictive. You are a drug addict as soon as you start taking this. You cannot remove them cold turkey. You have to reduce the dose slowly, gradually, teaching your body to live without this drug, without this addiction, by reducing the dose very, very gradually. And you have to remove one drug at a time. You start with a drug that you feel, and patient usually knows. They usually have a feeling, they know which drug is the least useful for them, which drug they can do without. Start from that one, remove it gradually, remove 1/10 of the dose, adjust for a week or two. Remove the second 1/10 of the dose, adjust for a week or two, and go on that way. Remove the first drug, then start on the second, then start on the third. And again, start always from the tail end of less useful drugs. Remove the less useful first, then the next less useful, and so on. Very difficult to remove them. Very, very difficult. And before you start removing them, it is important to deal with the major digestive issues and just make the whole body stronger with the GAPS diet first before attacking the drugs, particularly if the person has been taking them for a long time.
Would you have them, like, so if somebody's already stopped medications, would you still have them start the probiotic protocol, or have them wait until their symptoms kind of had subsided? Because I'm noticing that some of these patients are going through withdrawal, and on top of that, experiencing the die-off, you know, on a raw nervous system with high histamine issues, that it seems to be a little bit much. Is there any recommendation that you would have for somebody who's already in that severe withdrawal situation, any changes to the GAPS diet or any different protocols that you might do?
Of course, of course. Don't introduce probiotics if they're already going through withdrawal. Don't introduce probiotics or fermented foods yet.
Okay.
And start with the easiest to digest foods, such as first, second stages of the introduction diet, and ease them into the diet gradually, because they will be self-medicating with foods. They've removed drugs because they understand the drugs are not good for them, but they might be still self-medicating with chocolate and sugar and something else, and maybe smoking, and maybe, you know, other foods, maybe eating too much fruit. That's again self-medication, getting sugar fix. Don't remove those right from the beginning. Let them self-medicate with foods, which is far more natural than with drugs. Let them get over that withdrawal, and then later on you can start removing that fruit or that chocolate or those other things that they're self-medicating with.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, Jennifer, how critical is the keto, or sorry, Natasha, I was wondering how critical is the keto component to healing? I can tell you for myself, I have Candida, I have SIBO. My gut is the furthest thing from a symphony that you can imagine. It probably sounds more like Yoko Ono, so how critical is being in ketosis, and what sort of threshold of ketosis should you have to heal?
In my experience, ketosis is not important at all.
Really?
Not at all, even for epilepsy. It's not important at all. What is important is to change the microbial community in the body. And ketosis sometimes can be counterproductive for some people for that. So I wouldn't measure ketones unless you are recovering from cancer. Unless you have that situation, then perhaps being in ketosis is important. But for all other situations, I wouldn't be so intent on being in ketosis. I would just work on cleansing your digestive system, changing your gut flora, changing the microbial community. And I say most symptoms of die-off and withdrawal and other problems, you know, other terrible symptoms are relieved tremendously by a good enema.
Okay. One more question. A lot of people ask me about, is it okay to have a cheat day here and there? And I know that you've said in your book, it's very important that people do not cheat while they're healing. Can you, does it, if somebody does have a day where they go off path and they eat something that they don't want to, number one, does it ruin all the work they've done up until that point? And number two, what can they do to help to recover if they do make some unhealthy choices?
No, nothing's ruined. Yes, you will feed that candida or that other microbe in your body. They will rise up again. But maybe you needed that to deal with some acute issue. Maybe you self-medicated something that your body really needed. So I wouldn't beat yourself over that. I would just accept that, okay, I've cheated, but now I will start again. Healing is a journey. It's a journey. It's a whole life journey. People with chronic illnesses, they can never go back to their ordinary standard American diet that they lived on. They can never go back to that. So take it seriously and take it as a lifelong journey. So there's plenty of time.
Dr. Natasha, I have one more question for you. I've heard you mention urinary pain conditions like interstitial cystitis and vulvodynia and chronic pelvic pain syndrome, which is something I've suffered with for over 20 years. Can you tell me sort of how your gut bacteria and your digestive health ties into that?
Absolutely, these are GAPS conditions. And the first thing to remove are salicylate-rich foods. So all greens, particularly spinach, all greenery, and other salicylate-rich foods. You can find comprehensive list of salicylate-rich foods. What happens? Your gut flora is abnormal. The gut wall is damaged and porous and leaky. So salicylates do not break down properly in the gut. They absorb inappropriately digested or undigested. And when they go through they're removed from the body through urine. And when they go through the urine, when this urine full of salicylates accumulates in the bladder, it burns. It causes inflammation. It strips that mucus layer, protective layer in the lining of the bladder, and causes literally erosions in the bladder and in the urethra and the whole urinary system. And that causes chronic issues, chronic cystitis. And of course, the infection is never far away. That can join in periodically, but most of the time it is a chemical cystitis. So doctors who are not familiar with this situation, they just test the urine for microbes, for infection, often find no infection and say, well, you can't have cystitis. There's no infection. It's a chemical cystitis. So in order to deal with this situation properly, we have to heal the gut. And that takes time. We need to go through the introduction diet. But in the meantime, remove all foods which contain salicylates. And that's usually greens, nuts, a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables as well.
And oxalates are also prominent.
Right. Yeah. Oxalates and salicylates.
Do you experience many people going through oxalate dumping when they're starting the GAPS diet? If they cut out oxalates, like how do you know if a patient is going to be okay doing the intro diet without experiencing oxalate dumping?
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may not dump it initially, they may dump it a year later.
Mm.
I have a bout of cystitis. What helps with all of that is applying your homemade kefir to the groin area.
Mm.
In fact, that is very important to do every day for every GAPS person, particularly for women. Women have a short urethra, so that microbial community from kefir will travel up into the bladder. Bladder has a microbial community in it. And that microbial community, if it's wrong, then it will cause chronic cystitis. It will cause problems. In men, it's more difficult because their urethra is much longer, but it still travels. The microbial community still travels that way. But what men do, they can keep their bowel clean with enemas and finish every enema with some kefir mixed with water and put into the rectum, into the bowel, and then emptying again. So leaving some of that microbial community there. Because prostate and urethra goes right through prostate in men, right? That's where the enlargement of prostate comes from. It's the substances in urine that cause the enlargement of prostate, which is so common amongst men because they're all eating modern terrible diets, and all these chemicals coming through in urine cause the inflammation of the prostate and the enlargement. But prostate at the back is literally connected to the front wall of the bowel, of the rectum, lower parts of the bowel. And that wall between the bowel and the prostate is porous. There are literally canals there, channels. There is an exchange going on of something between the content of the bowel and the prostate itself. So by populating your bowel and your rectum with beneficial flora, by finishing your every enema with some kefir put into there, or some sour cream that you made at home, you will be healing your prostate, and through prostate you will be introducing beneficial flora into the bladder, into your urethra and the bladder. That's for men.
I'm just curious, how long does it take to generally heal from leaky gut? Like, is there a specific timeline that you generally see?
It depends on the person, depends how long you've been ill, can take several years. Some people recover within a few months. Other people take 5 years. It depends. And it depends how many layers your onion has.
Okay.
And only your body will decide what is the priority number one that it wants to deal with first. What's the next priority? What's the next priority?
Right.
You have to work with your body. You have to listen to it. You have to respect what the body is trying to do. and just assist it by keeping the toxicity low in the body. And I say an enema is the best way to clean out 90% of toxicity from your body, and by feeding your body properly, giving it proper rest, giving it positive emotions, positive attitudes, sunlight, swimming in the proper natural waters, walking barefoot, and all the other natural approaches.
Right.
Awesome.
Jennifer, did you have any last questions before we let Dr. Natasha go?
I think we've taken up enough of her time. We really appreciate you talking to us.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys need, first off, you know, this is one book. I'll be honest with you. I'm still trying to get through the whole book, but this is the Bible of healing yourself. So start here. Dr. Natasha has lots of great works. Dr. Natasha, can you tell us where we could find you? Tell us a little bit about your work, maybe coming up, and you know, how maybe people could get in touch with you in the future.
Well, I have a website. There are many GAPS websites online, and that's practitioners and enthusiasts and other people. I have one website called gaps.me. That's my website. I have a blog, dr-natasha.com. I can put these things in the chat, actually. That would be easier.
Yeah, and I'll link them down below, guys.
Yeah, so I'll just type them in. Gaps.me. And for training practitioners, we have gapstraining.com.
Okay.
I've been training health practitioners for a long time now. We have thousands and thousands around the world. We have a second profession that we've introduced a year ago called coaches, GAPS coaches. These are more hands-on people. And a person can become a coach without having a prior medical degree of any description. We just gone through the GAPS protocol themselves, in their family, with their children, with themselves. They have experience. These are the kind of people. So these people can come to your home and help you with shopping, help you with cooking, help you with dealing with daily issues. And many of them work online as well, long distance. So we have these 2 courses going on there. We're planning other courses, which will come out this year. We will have a course for people who are completely new to the GAPS nutritional protocol and would like some guidance. So they can sign up for that course and go through the course while they are introducing the whole thing. And the course instructors and the whole community there will be answering questions for you and guiding you, taking you by the hand and leading you by the hand. We're going to start training chefs how to implement GAPS diet, how to open GAPS restaurants. We're going to do other courses. We're doing a course for pregnant women, how to be on a GAPS nutritional protocol while you're pregnant, and how to heal a baby, how to bring up a GAPS baby. So we're working on that course. So please have a look on that website. You will find a lot of information. We also have a new development last year now in 2021. We have opened a GAPS Science Foundation. So it's .org. GAPS Science.
That's amazing. Jennifer, it looks like we need to open up a GAPS restaurant.
That's right.
Yes.
So here we are doing science now. We are doing case studies, we are doing scientific studies to show to the wider community of medics in the world that GAPS works.
It does. It does work.
Yeah,
You guys
I can't wait to get through the practitioner program myself in the spring, and then maybe we can work on opening that restaurant.
Absolutely.
You gonna do stuff?
Well, Dr. Natasha, it has been.
I've made enough meat broth in the last 3 months. I think I could be an expert in making meat stock by now. And ferments and kefir.
Hey, kefir, yeah. Dr. Natasha, I just want to say it's been an absolute privilege to talk with you today. You know, this has been the best interview I've ever done. I'm so grateful for you coming on. And I know Jennifer was super excited to talk to you as well. So you have surpassed our expectations and more. I just want to thank you so much for coming on.
We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you for spreading the knowledge and helping other people to understand.
We are so grateful for all the legwork you've done so that we can learn from you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Listen to the mother of modern medicine, guys. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.